Chris, I meant to ask you, are you going to have time for me tomorrow before you head out? Okay.
I have a 9 o'clock, so I'll be over somewhere in the 8 o'clock window.
All right. Thank you.
No problem. Did John drop anything off for me at the township today?
John Funk?
Yes.
No.
Okay, I'll discuss it with him later.
Okay. Hey, Cindy.
Hey guys, how are you tonight?
Very good.
Good.
Chris, what's the deal if you're coming back from Jersey into PA? What's the deal with testing and or quarantining?
I've been doing it for a year, like 2 to 3 times a month, and I've never been asked or stopped. So I know that Jersey and New York are one of those, high problem areas. And it was a concern, last summer, but I've never had an issue. Now I come in over the Betsy, and I come in over Commodore Barry. Which way you heading?
No, I was just wondering what the rule was, because just out of curiosity.
Understood.
Sorry, I dropped out there. Not sure what's going on.
We have a frozen one of you and a regular one.
Yeah, we have 2 Patricks.
Yeah, I've been having a problem. Verizon's been having huge issues all day, and that's what I'm on at home. So I'm hoping it doesn't continue.
Uh-oh.
And I'm hoping the other one drops off.
I'm going to try to remove it. So
There it goes. There it goes.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I was going to say, I don't want to kick you out.
I mean, I'm okay if you do. But thank
Does
you.
that mean that he's going to charge us twice the bill?
You're on a roll today, Ed.
Hey, if only that was a thing.
I could double my billables in one day.
Hi, John.
Hello, Cindy. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Yourself?
Good. Thank you.
Good.
My wife and I have had both shots.
Oh,
So-
how are you feeling?
Oh, good. Never a problem.
Really? With neither you or your wife with a second shot, no problems?
No, and our neighbor had shots. He had no problems. And another neighbor had 2 shots. He had no problems. So we haven't had any reaction so far. My wife and I got, and the neighbor got Moderna, and we haven't had anything.
That's great, because I've heard so many people had a problem with the second shot of Moderna.
Yeah. A friend of my neighbor's a surgeon, and his second surgery gal, she was sick for 3 or 4 days when she got her second shot. She couldn't work. Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay.
So have you had any?
I have not had any shots.
You're way too young to have a shot.
Not that young. My daughter had 2 shots, and she got a little sick from the second shot. She had the Pfizer.
Uh-huh. She's a physician?
She is. She's a 3rd-year resident. Yes.
Uh-huh. So she had to have it. Yeah.
She did. Oh yeah. She's been dealing with COVID patients for this whole time. Yes.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Eddie's quarantined.
I'm sorry?
Eddie, our boy Ed Drakup he's under house arrest, I think, right, Ed?
Let's not violate HIPAA, John.
No.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Cause a public uproar.
All right, it's 7:32.
Very good. It's called order. Okay, welcome everybody to the March 3rd, 2021 Board of Supervisors meeting for East Vincent Township. If we could all rise and pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening. A little housekeeping here, public comment. If we could just remember to use the raise hand function to ask a live question. Public comment will be taking at the time designated, and note that public comment we requested is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. All right, the minutes of February 3rd, 2021. Were there any questions, gentlemen, related to that?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Very good.
Motion?
Can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for our meeting from, what was it, February? what?
February 3rd.
February 3rd, 2021.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the financials. The bills list through March 3rd, 2021 for a grand total of $215,077.43 plus payroll number 3 and number 4. Were there any questions related to these?
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the bills list and financials through March 3rd, 2021. Can I have a second?
And payroll 3-4.
And payrolls 3 and 4, correct.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay,
All in
reports.
favor? All in favor?
I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And reports. Nobody here from police, however, Public Works. Catherine, can you just cover Public Works?
Sure, yep. I'll go through some of the winter storm update quickly because I gave an update on that last month. Obviously, it was a very winter month in February. We used approximately 430 tons of sodium chloride, 25 tons of anti-skid sodium chloride mix, and 72 tons of magnesium chloride. The magnesium chloride is something newer that we're using because we're seeing temperatures consistently around 20 degrees and below, and it's more effective. Rock salt is really only effective down to 15 degrees. So we had a lot of success with that. All of the drains were cleared with township loaders as soon after a storm as possible to keep any milting. And the township loaders were also used as needed to move away snow from tight areas. Drainage, the repair work of many of the storm inlets will resume as soon as the weather permits. We need 40-degree plus weather and the snow melt off to stop running to start the work. Replacement of old deteriorating bricks and mortar was completed in Wingate 1 and 2 on approximately 15 inlets thus far, and there's a large list of inlet work to complete in other locations. Equipment, we did have some equipment issues that were pretty much all related to just wear and tear from a lot of snow removal. So we had one with the large Gledhill road plow. There was a center pivot bolt that sheared, causing the hydraulic cylinder to move and break the hydraulic lines, but this was able to get fixed. And then one of the Everest road plows and also the Freightliner plow truck did also need some work. The Freightliner slid off of Lucas Road during one of the storms and into a deep ditch requiring the help of a tow truck. from Wonderlick's garage to lift it out and pull it out of the ditch. About an hour was lost, but thankfully there was no equipment damaged and no one was hurt, just the tow bill. Many minor repairs and routine service of the winter equipment is being done between storms, which hopefully are over now. Parks monthly inspections are completed on all equipment at the park on the ridge. Intermittent nice weather has kept the park quite busy, which we saw lots of people out there today, which was wonderful. Just a reminder, the restrooms are still not available, but the rest of the park is open. The Parks and Rec Committee met for the first time in a year. They met in February via Zoom to work on a grant application for Independence Park. Board members might remember that we did receive a grant from Chester County for $250,000 for that associated with that effort, but we're looking to get some of the matching funds through DCNR. So that project has been on hold while hopefully we wait to get that grant, and the Parks and Rec Committee gave a lot of really helpful feedback. So thank you to that group. Wastewater services, there was a minor incident at the vet center plant, which required the use of a loader. A dumpster overflowed with processed solid waste materials inside the centrifuge building. And the loader was used to clean out the building as well as clean up a small portion of the driveway where it continued to spill as it was being loaded onto a roll-off truck. And the material was placed in the same dumpster after emptied and returned to us. Just a few other quick notes. There's been a lot of issues lately with trees, tree encroachments, falling into the roadways, especially with all the ice that we've had. So just a general reminder to residents that if you live along a township roadway, especially, please make sure you trim your trees back. Otherwise, you'll probably get a letter from us to do that because they can constitute a hazard. And there is a shortage of road salt so far this year, which again, hopefully we don't need much more of. We're experiencing some slight delays in getting our salt deliveries, but hopefully we have enough to make it through the rest of the season without any issues. That's all.
Very good. Thank you.
Just could I make a comment about the trees and the road? A lot of people don't understand that if you have a tree that's on your property and it falls across the road, it's your problem. And I don't know whether you want to write something about that in the newsletter, Catherine, but it seems there's misunderstandings. People don't believe that if their trees fall on the road, it's their problem. They think it's either the township or the state's problem, and that's not true.
That's right.
Clarify.
Yeah, that's right. That's actually a second-class township code issue too. That so it goes all the way to that level. It kind of even supersedes our own ordinances. So it's a good reminder and something we can include in future publications.
So let's just real quick on that. You know, if a tree falls across a township road and the owner of the tree doesn't clear it, and we got to call somebody out to clear it, who gets the bill?
The property owner.
Right.
We need to communicate that to them.
Very good.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Funk, can you take code enforcement, please?
Certainly. Building code, Chris?
Yes.
In February, there were 10 zoning permits. 11 building permits, 5 plumbing, 8 electrical, 5 mechanical, 1 road occupancy, no use in occupancy, 2 grading permits, holding tanks, none, contractor registrations, 10, plumber registrations, 3, sewer lateral connections, 5, sewer resale inspections, 1, and storm applications, 7, stormwater applications.
Thank you.
There were new single-family dwellings, year-to-date 5. Fees collected for February, $5,070. Fees collected year-to-date, $9,307. Estimated cost of construction for February, $1,562,536. Estimated cost of construction year-to-date, $1,994,115.
Thank you. Cindy, can you give us an update on the engineering report?
I sure can. So mine is for the month of January. I reviewed 3 stormwater management plans, approved one of them. And there was 1 land development application that I had reviewed and issued a review letter for.
Thank you.
Sure.
And Mr. Jacob, can you do emergency response, please?
Emergency response for January: Ridge Fire number 10, Liberty Steam number 14, Kimberton Fire 0, Friendship Ambulance 37.
Thank you. Okay. Old business. Ordinance number 238, the proposed zoning ordinance amendments to age-restricted development update. I actually asked for this placeholder to be here. I wanted to make a statement. As many of our residents know, the township has been considering a petition to amend the township zoning ordinance provisions within the low-density residential district since it was first submitted in June of 2019 by Artisan Construction Group. Initially, the Artisan Construction Group sought to amend the zoning ordinance to permit large-scale age-restricted community on the entirety of 2 large parcels located at 1241 West Bridge Street, known as the Ruth Farm, which is 66 acres, and 446 Stony Run Road, known as the Bucco Tract, which is 89 acres. While the age-restricted development was already permitted by the zoning ordinance in the LR district, the Artisan Group the Artisan Group sought a zoning amendment to increase the overall permitted density for the use, among other changes. Artisan's proposed text amendment included an age-restricted overlay district for the Ruth and Bucco tracts that permitted 231 lots on the properties, which were depicted on a sketch plan that they had accompany the petition to the amended zoning ordinance. Over a period of several months, the text and sketch plan were reviewed by East Vincent Township's Planning Commission, Chester County's Planning Commission, and the township consultants. In January of 2020, Artisan abandoned its plan to develop the Bucco tract and instead proposed to develop only the Ruth Farm with 212 lots as part of the zoning amendment petition. Artisan represented that it intended to preserve the Bucco tract, which it now owns, if the text amendment was permitted for the age-restricted development by the township. The revised text amendment was reviewed by Chester County Planning Commission, the East Vincent County Planning Commission, the township's consultants. In addition, the township received public input and comment during the Planning Commission meetings and the Board of Supervisor meetings that discussed the zoning amendment petition. Eventually, the Board of Supervisors authorized a hearing to discuss the proposed amendment on August 19th of 2020, but took no action to enact the amendment. Instead, the board authorized its township staff and consultants to actively review the revised draft ordinance amendment in an effort to address the input received from the county, the township planning commission, the public, and to determine whether such proposed use and density was realistic and proper in the location and in the zoning district. A working group consisting of the township manager, solicitor, engineer, planner, a supervisor, and a planning commission member spent weeks revising the proposed ordinance amendment and presented a revised draft to the Township Planning Commission for its consideration and comment. The Township Planning Commission discussed the revised draft ordinance on November 30th, 2020, December 2nd, 2020, and January 19th of this year, 2021, and reviewed public comment on the draft ordinance, and the majority of which was opposed to the proposal. In February of 2021, the board authorized the amendment to be reviewed by the County Planning Commission, but comments have not been received as of tonight's meeting. For more than 1 year, I have weighed whether Artisan's proposal is in the best interest of the township and our residents. I believe I've approached the petition to amend, as well as the public's opposition to it, with an open mind. After considering all the feedback we have received from Artisan, the public, the County Planning Commission, Township Planning Commission, the township staff and consultants, and after legal consultation and advice from our solicitor, I do not believe that amending the LR zoning district in this fashion is in the best interest of the township at this time. Instead, I think that it is better for the township to step back and conduct a comprehensive review of its zoning ordinance, which is long overdue, and not specific to any one development proposal. A comprehensive zoning ordinance review is the logical next step for the township to take into consideration the recommendations contained in the recent updated comprehensive plan. As such, I'd like to make a motion to deny Artisan's petition to amend the LR district provisions regarding an age-restricted development. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'd like to open for comment amongst the board. Does anybody have a position or comment to make?
I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. I think that our zoning ordinance and our comprehensive plan don't provide the framework for this ordinance amendment. And I think what we have to do is look at our comprehensive plan, make changes if we think it suits, and then change our zoning ordinance so that we have a place where age restricted can be logically developed. It doesn't seem to me, reviewing the ordinance as it now sits, that it would be very hard for somebody to do an age restricted community in our township. And I think we should revise our zoning and our comprehensive plan so that it fits legally and administratively, fits better into the framework.
Thank you. Okay, well, if there's no
Yeah, I
other
think, pardon me,
comment,
the only thing that I would add to
Okay.
John's comment, and I think your statement was, I would agree with everything that you said, because I took a similar approach personally, but just to add to John's comment would be, and where it fits within the public's eye, if you will, where the public would accept such development. It's got to be in the right place or it doesn't work.
I agree. Okay. At this time, is there any public comment to be made?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Christine McNeil.
Welcome, Christine. You are muted.
I want to congratulate you for making a decision that represents the feelings of the township. And
Thank
I
you.
know that many of you were pushing this for a long time, but we really need to protect the rural character of this township. And I congratulate you.
Thank you. Catherine?
I don't see any other public comment, Mr. Chairman.
Very good.
I have
Oh,
another,
I'm sorry. There is one more.
Then I have a question after that public comment comes through, please.
Absolutely.
Andre Walls.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'd like to add to Christine's comment and thank you guys for making the right decision on this as well. I don't have as much of a question as I do a statement. I'm hoping that moving forward, we'll be able to find better ways to coalesce all of the community ideas around how we, put these sorts of things together, how these zoning ordinance come about, and be able to give more opportunity for public input. From what I saw, just looking from the outside in, this is something that's been a discussion for perhaps longer than it needed to be, since we had so many people who were against it. So while I'm glad to see that the minds have been changed, I'm hoping to see in the future that individuals will have more say in their government than they've had to this point. Thanks.
I appreciate your comment. I will make the statement that obviously this past year has been very difficult with COVID and these virtual meetings, and things were discussed more openly in the township building when we were able to have public meeting. Not that made any decision. We made the right decision for the township and its residents based on all the facts, and that's what I asked for last month, was all the facts. So, Ed, go ahead.
And I was just going to add to that we would hope that the public understands, and some folks out there do understand this, that there's a process that goes through that. When that builder comes forward with such a petition and such, and Patrick could weigh on this, please, there's a process that we have to go through to explore all the information. So it's not that we really wanted to drag it out, but you have to go through a proper process. And if Patrick could, weigh in on that, I'd appreciate it.
No, I think that's right, Ed. There was a petition for your review. I think the township seriously considered it. I think it appeared to me much of this occurred before I became your solicitor, but my sense was that the township was intrigued by the initial idea and vetted it thoroughly, which I think is the obligation of the township to consider. And you considered the comments from the public and from your consultants. And at the end of the day, taking all that into consideration, you decided that this wasn't the right direction for the township. So that's actually, I think, how the process is supposed to play out.
So the only question that I have outstanding, and again, this may require Patrick's comment as well as Catherine, is I thought the hearing was still open, and what do we need to do to close that loop?
So I wasn't aware that the hearing was still open. I'll have to talk to Catherine about that offline. I'm not sure, as I sit here, Ed, not having considered it or seeing the transcript. The fact that you're denying the petition tonight, my sense is you may not even really have to do anything, but let me think about that. And I'll follow up with Catherine on that tomorrow. I appreciate you letting me know that, because I wasn't involved at the time.
Thank you.
So we had a motion and a second, right?
Yes.
To rescind it. So do we vote on that at this time, Patrick, or do we wait to see if that? Okay.
No,
thank you.
I would suggest you vote.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have a public hearing on ordinance 241 for wastewater services 2016 and open space services 2012 bond refinancing. And we have Michael Wolf here, I believe, in attendance tonight to discuss this. Is Michael available?
And Helen Mountain, Mr.
Helen,
Chairman.
welcome. I see you're on the screen now. And you're both muted.
Can you hear me?
I can now. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I'll give a short introduction, and then I'll ask Helen to tell you a little bit about the ordinance.
I'm sorry, one thing. I don't think I heard you make a motion to open the hearing.
I apologize. Can I have a motion to open the hearing?
I'll make a motion to open the hearing on ordinance 241 for refinancing open space
Second.
Series 2012, and wastewater services 2016 bonds, please.
Thank you. I'll second the motion.
All right.
All right.
So we've been working on refunding these two bond issues for a few months. Last year, we hit a grand slam home run and saved over $1 million of debt service. There aren't enough bonds left outstanding to do that again, but we're hoping to save $500,000 of debt service by refinancing the series of 2016, which reach back all the way to 2010 and were for sewer service purposes, as you heard, and a few leftover 2012 bonds that relate back to open space. They're just the icing on the cake. The real cake is about $400,000 to be saved on the 2016s and only $90,000 to be saved on the 2012s. That's net to the township after all costs. And that we do a present value calculation also, because some of the savings occurs out 10 or 11 years into the future. So we discount that into today's dollars. Again, we could save more if the bonds were either more outstanding or lasted longer into the future, but the township has been aggressive in the past about taking advantage of refinancing, kind of like a homeowner who keeps looking at interest rates falling and refinancing his home mortgage, even though every time he does it, he thinks he's achieved the lowest possible. So we keep looking for opportunities, and amazingly, we keep finding them. We have now been to Standard & Poor's, and we got our upgraded new rate. I'm sorry, not upgraded. Our revised new rating. It's the same as what the township has had historically. It's a AA from Standard & Poor's with a stable outlook. The report card from Standard & Poor's is excellent. In every category, you got wonderful marks. And as I think I've said before to this group, the only way for East Vincent to get a higher score than they have now is to double the population and the market value of real estate. And that comes, as you know, with side effects. As it is, your rating is only 2 notches from the very, very highest that it can be. And at this level, you're already in the stratosphere. So you go right to the front of the line in a competition with other issuers of bonds. And I don't think it's necessary to kill yourselves to get the last 2 steps on the ladder. You're standing on a pretty tall ladder right now. We expect to be able to market these bonds this coming Tuesday, March the 9th, and we anticipate settlement a month later on April 12th. When we sell the bonds, we will lock in the rates, and everything after that is just going through hurdles with Department of Community and Economic Development, et cetera. So your risk now, your risk period for interest rate change is less than a week if we can stay on track. Even though you may have seen interest rates go up in the newspapers, that's usually treasury rates, taxable rates. Fortunately, municipal bonds have sort of lagged behind, haven't really made up their mind to go up. They went up a little bit, but nothing like the big run up we saw in treasuries. So we think the market will still be very good for you next week. I think I'll pause because you know me, I could talk about this all night, but some of you have other things to do. So let me ask you if you have any, let's call them technical questions before we talk to Helen.
I have questions, Michael.
Very good. I'm sorry, did you say you had a question?
I have no questions. Thank
Oh,
you.
sorry, it was a little broken.
And you've done an awesome job for us in the past, so we appreciate that.
Thank you. I think a double off the wall next week would be good. You know, you can't hit a home run every time. I think a double would be good. Advance the base runners, you know, RBIs, whatever.
So Michael, in total, how much is this refinancing going to save the township?
Over $500,000. Mostly in the sewer. And a
What's
little
the-
bit.
What's the discount rate that you used for present value?
We use your cost of funds, the all-in cost of funds as being the discount rate. There's a big, I'm sure there's a big debate in academia, you know, about what the right discount rate is. Some people would say inflation, all kinds of other things. But at the moment, your all-in cost for bonds that go out about 12 years is 1.47%. So that's the discount rate we use. I don't pretend to understand all the arguments for using other discount rates, but my computer allows me to select other choices, but this is the one we use. Okay, so let's talk to Helen about the details of the ordinance on which you're going to vote.
Good evening, everyone. The ordinance for your consideration tonight authorizes bonds in one or more series in the aggregate amount of up to $11,060,000 to finance the refunding of all or a portion of the township's outstanding 2012 and 2016 bonds and to pay the costs of issuance. There are three areas of law that are covered by the ordinance. The first is the Pennsylvania Local Government Unit Debt Act. The filing that we will be making with the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development will show that the financing presented to the Commonwealth will be within the township's borrowing capacity. The second area of law are the tax laws. The township will be covenanting that it will be in compliance with all applicable tax laws, including a covenant that the township will not use the proceeds of the bond in any way that would cause the bonds to be considered arbitrage bonds. The last area of law covered by the ordinance are the federal securities laws. The ordinance provides that the township will annually file continuing disclosures to keep bondholders up to date on the township's finances and other material events. The ordinance also authorizes awarding the 2021 bonds to Benning and Scattergood pursuant to the terms of a bond purchase agreement. And as Mr. Wolf stated, we are expected to close on or about April 12th. We advertised the first notice regarding the ordinance last Friday on February 26th, and we will advertise the second notice after enactment of the ordinance as required by the Debt Act. We will wait until to file with DCED until we have the final numbers from the bond sale next week. We'll need to do a roll call vote for this ordinance. Does anyone have any questions regarding the legal aspects of this transaction?
No.
Yeah, the only other question I have, whether it be legal or not, Helen, is we're not extending the term. Is that correct?
No, we're not.
That's good. Okay. I have no other questions. Thank you.
I think I'll mention one other thing, which we say every time, but some of you may not have heard this before, and that is that once you take action tonight, you're not required to meet again because the ordinance contains parameters which, if satisfied, would be acceptable to the township. So we have maximum interest rates not to exceed, maximum principal amounts in each year, and a minimum level of savings specified. And if we can't meet all of those parameters, then we would not proceed with the sale of the bonds. Assuming that we meet all those parameters and get you the $500,000 that we're looking for, et cetera. By the way, that would be about 5% of the refunded principal, and the minimum target is usually 2 to 3%. So we're clearly going to be above the typical minimum. But once we have all that, maybe on Tuesday afternoon, we would circulate an addendum to the bond purchase agreement that Helen mentioned, and the various staff of the township, along with bond counsel, would discuss the terms that are in the addendum, and if they're satisfied, they would say so and authorize bond counsel to release the signature page locking the rates. So you do not have to come back and meet once you take action tonight. Thank you.
I have a question, Michael. Do we understand that the current plan is that these bonds will be paid off within 10 years? Is that the understanding?
Yes, it's actually, there's two pieces of it. The longer piece, the 2016s, go out till 2031, and that's where they always used to end, and where they still end. That's 11 years. The other piece, the shorter piece, the open space piece, only goes out 6 years to 2026. And a bunch of those bonds, the meatiest bonds, the longest bonds, and the bonds with the highest interest rates, they've already been taken away. This is just almost housekeeping to take away the ones that didn't fit within the $10 million cap the last time we did bonds. These are just cleanup. So some of the bonds go out 11 and some go out 6.
So at this point, we're refinancing the building and the sewer bonds, and we've refinanced practically all the debt in the township at the lowest rate, and within 11 years, everything should be paid off.
That is what we see now.
Yeah.
By the way, the building was refinanced, I think that was last year. That was the big
Right.
bond issue with the big savings and the long dated maturities. But I think, John, the 2020 bonds go out a lot further than 11 years. I'll take a look at that while we're talking, but
I think
you won't be out of debt because the township complex bonds run out for quite some time, right? I don't have it on the tip of my tongue, but I'm looking it up right now. 2020 bonds. Go out to 2039. So, I mean, that's only 19 years, but remember that was a long dated bond when the building was new. But there's a very precipitous drop off in debt service after 2030. The debt service drops way down. I will say that in my experience, though, townships are almost never really out of debt. It's not really a concept that you should get wedded to, because it's like, John, it's like owning an old car. There's always something to be done, right? There's always something in the township that needs to be fixed up, renovated, or improved. So I don't think you should plan on a mortgage burning as such. A good stewardship is always, looking forward into the future and doing more and more.
It seems
you've been good about that historically.
It seems with our revenue stream, Michael, and the fact that we have a new building, we have a relatively new sewer plant that we're probably going to have to expand and so forth, but we're looks to me, at least, like we're on a downward slope, and within 10 years, we're going to have a whole lot less than we have now.
There's no doubt about it. And by the way, Catherine did a good job with Standard and Poor's, and she was sure to remind them at every opportunity that if you did take on more debt, specifically for Veterans Center treatment plan, that it would be self-liquidating out of rents and charges and not really count against the borrowing capacity of the township. And we said it a few times and they got it. They got the message. It's in the report.
Great.
Good job, Catherine.
Catherine, is there any public comment?
I don't see any, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. I'd like to make a motion then, if everybody is complete, to close the hearing.
I'll second the motion.
Very good.
I'll second.
Ready to vote? Vote on
All in
it.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. And next, can we get a motion to enact the ordinance 241, the refinancing for the Open Space Series 2012 and the Wastewater Series 2016 bonds?
That motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
Thank you, Helen, and thank you, Michael.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Good job. Thank you very much.
Just a couple more days until we can lock this down. We've gotten wonderful.
Where'd they go? Where'd he go? He's off to dinner.
Right before the empty promise. All right. All right, let's move to new business. The agenda has 2 items. We're going to add a 3rd item to it. This evening, there was an executive session and we reviewed a settlement agreement that the township has received stemming from a lawsuit against the township, the police department, and Pennhurst associated with a claim by William Phillips of a disputed legal claim arising out of alleged events that occurred on or about September 23rd, 2017 related to Mr. Phillips' arrest. At this time, the board is prepared to accept the settlement agreement and authorize it to be executed on behalf of the township and its police department. Do I have a motion to accept and execute the settlement agreement as presented this evening?
I will make that
Settlement.
motion.
I heard a first and I believe a second.
I'll be first. I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. John, will you second the motion?
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Next piece of business is 3694 Schuylkill Road, Premier Motors. Give me 1 second. Okay, there's a draft motion for 3691 Schuylkill Road, Premier Motors Group for a zoning hearing board application. Premier Motors Group submitted a zoning hearing application for a variance from Chapter 27 zoning, Section 1103.2, maximum impervious coverage to be considered at the March zoning hearing board meeting. This is Premier Motor Group's second appearance before the hearing board to request a variance associated the partnered land development application to construct an automotive service center and office. The applicant made changes to the original layout following an appearance before the Planning Commission and has reduced the size of the building and rotated the structure, which negates the need for side yard setback variance requests that they previously granted. The applicant is requesting the variance for maximum impervious coverage in order to comply with the parking requirements of the zoning ordinance. So at this time, John or Ed, do you have any comment or question?
The way I understand this, they want to fix cars and repair cars on the southwest side of 724, and their sales lot is on the other side of the road.
Correct.
And this is a small property, and they've asked for changes before. And it seems to me that they're trying to
Prevent land development.
I don't see how this really fits together very well. And I mean, I've heard what the Planning Commission has to say about this and so forth about the property before, and it just, to me, doesn't seem to fit very well.
Just researching some history here. What you
When you
guys
say
are.
it doesn't fit, John, how do you mean that?
It's a small piece of property. They want to fix cars on the southwest side, on the right-hand side going down toward Phoenixville. And their sales lot is a big piece of property on the other side. And so they're going to have to move cars back and forth across the highway. It's a small property. They're having to do all kinds of things to make it fit in the zoning. And it just, you know, they ought to do it some other way, I think, not with this piece of property. It just seems like.
But then what, you want to send them back to the Planning Commission?
I just don't like it. I don't like it's a too small piece of property to do what they want to do.
They're looking for an additional 10% impervious coverage.
It looked like it was a reduction of 10% of impervious coverage. Unless I read it incorrectly.
Cindy, what do you say?
I have,
Right in the middle.
I'm sorry.
We have to put you right in the middle of it.
I haven't actually seen what they're proposing as far as the maximum impervious. I know that there's some existing gravel out there that they're trying to count for impervious, but that's not regulated impervious that they can get credit for. It is a small triangular lot, and it is true they're trying to fit a lot in that lot. We've had several staff meetings with them, and they've been very cooperative as listening to our suggestions to make it work better for the site. But it is a very tight site, and that's why they need the variances to make it work.
As I read the application, it says that impervious has gone from 60% to 50 and a half, basically. So it's a reduction in impervious coverage, but I mean, John, at this point, you're saying you either want to send them back to planning or something else, because I mean, they're basically asking for this because they had a building there and the building was not deemed to be safe, so they tore it down, right? And that's what created all this issue. Is that a fair assessment?
That is how the application reads.
Yeah.
It also wasn't large enough for the use that they want to do there. I think that's probably the bigger thing
Right.
here.
They're looking to construct 2,226 square foot building to replace the prior 1,088 square foot building, which they had demolished with the statement that it was deemed unfit or unsafe.
So our task is not to determine whether it's good for that spot or not, and this is just me talking, but rather determining whether we send them back to the zoning hearing board, right?
Right.
Well, they have a land development application that's currently before the Planning Commission right now.
Okay.
And they they filed this zoning hearing board application for the variance request based on what's going to be reviewed by the Planning Commission. So the question for the board tonight is, if you have concerns or comments, you can have your solicitor go to that zoning hearing board meeting and express your concerns on your behalf, but you'd want to articulate those clearly so they know. And, or you can also have the planning commission review the zoning hearing board application along with the land development application so that the planning commission can also offer comments to the zoning hearing board. And you can do any combination of those things depending on how strongly you feel about it.
I would follow the course of the latter that you just explained.
Okay.
I think that's the least costly, and let planning look at it again.
Are they going to be traversing across 724, as John suggested, not only by vehicle, but by foot? Is that part of their operational needs?
I think from a staff standpoint, it's likely that you would see pedestrian crossing there, going back and forth between the sales and service side. But customers, no, as it's been presented.
Okay.
As it's been presented.
They're proposing 18 parking spots, plus whatever obviously fits inside the building. I assume that whatever is on the other side of the street is not going to be new cars for sale that customers are coming over to look at. These are cars that are on their way in that they need to inspect and maintenance and detail. Is that how they
However,
presented
if you
this?
go to a car dealership lot and you're waiting for service, a lot of times you're not just sitting there. You'll go look at the other cars. And that's what they want you to do, is go look at the other cars to buy.
Right. All right. So I'll have some concerns during the land development process.
It seems to me, Mr. Chairman, though, that the repair facility, they're not just going to repair cars that they're going to sell. I would imagine they're going to repair cars that they've sold.
Service, yeah.
Right.
That's right.
They're going to repair cars. And so they're going to have a repair facility and a sales facility on the other side of the road. And the repair facility is a tiny little piece of property that they're trying to squeeze everything into. And it just seems to me like it's too much squeezing. And, you know, maybe they can make this, maybe they can make it work within the zoning. Well, they're going to have to ask for a variance because they don't have enough space. And I just wonder whether it's a good thing.
Yeah, I expressed some very similar concerns when this came before me and the planning commission when I was serving there. And I had very similar concerns. So how would you like to proceed?
Personally, the path that Catherine laid out, I think, is a good path. Let them go for their variance, then let it come back and go back to planning commission.
Okay.
And then, you know, if you have an issue there, we can raise the issue with planning and let them make a recommendation back to us.
Okay.
So I would make a motion at this time to send it to the zoning hearing board for the application for 3694 Schuylkill Road.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
And pardon me, and then back to planning for review. So
Correct.
And then before you vote, Chris, don't forget for public comment.
Yes. Is there anybody there, Catherine, that has a comment?
I do not see any, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
favor aye.
Aye. Okay. New business. Resolution 2021-13. Okay, resolution 2021-13, resolved that the month of April 2021 recognized as Pennsylvania Safety Digging Month, and the initiative sponsored by the Pennsylvania 811, a utility notification information center celebrating its 49th year of continuous service to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And whereas Pennsylvania 811 received close to 992,000 excavation notices in 2020 and transmitted approximately 6.6 million notifications to their member facility owners and operators, allowing essential utilities and construction crews to provide vital underground services and repair of critical infrastructure to communities throughout Pennsylvania. And whereas their mission is to prevent damage to underground facilities, to promote safety, provide an efficient and effective communication network among project owners, designers, excavators, and facility owners. And whereas when dialing 811 at least 3 business days before digging, a homeowner or a contractor is connected to a unique service that notifies the appropriate underground utility operator in the municipality in which the work will be performed. And whereas by notifying 811 of their intent to dig, the homeowner or contractor is knowingly helping to protect the underground utilities themselves, work crews, and their neighbors from any unsafe digging practices within the community. And now, therefore, be it resolved that East Vincent Township, in support of Pennsylvania Underground Utility Line Protection Law, PA Act 287 of 1974, is amended, we do hereby proclaim April 2021 as Pennsylvania Safe Digging Month and encourage all Pennsylvanians to visit the Pennsylvania 811 website at www.pa1call.org for information about digging safety. And I don't believe we need any additional comment there.
Just a motion, I think.
Yes. So a motion to enact resolution 2021-13.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. I'll second.
You?
Yes, believe you were. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good.
Mr. Chairman, just before we move on from that one, just one other comment.
Yes.
In April, since you've adopted this, there's an entire PR campaign that we'll be doing at the township office with handing out materials so residents are aware, contractors are aware. So be on the lookout for that. We'll be kicking that off on April 1st.
Fantastic. Okay, and tonight under miscellaneous discussion, we have a request from Dutch Country Market for new use at 3190 Schuylkill Road. The township received a letter from Blackinger Thomas Law Firm representing Ephraim and Rebecca Zook and their business known as the Dutch Country Market, located at 3190 Schuylkill Road. The business currently operates as a farm stand business, which is allowed via special exception. The Zooks would like to extend their offerings to offer a full deli and also sell additional items that they do not grow on the property. This use, as described, is not currently allowable under the MR zoning district. Believe the Ephraims are here. Ephraim and Rebecca Zook are here with their counsel, Seth Hiller. Are they online?
Yes.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Welcome. So can you give us a little understanding of what your client is requesting.
Yes, and Ephraim, can you hear me as well?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So we're here tonight. Dutch Country Market is requesting that the Board of Supervisors consider an amendment to the zoning ordinance to permit retail sales of agricultural products in the MR zone subject to a conditional use. So this would be an amendment to section 702, section 3 of the ordinance. And the idea here is, and how Ephraim came about to request that the board consider this, is that the current zoning restrictions for the property are, the MR zone is very restrictive at this point. And the Dutch Country Market is existing under 20-year-old conditions that were granted pursuant to a requested variance 20 years ago. The property over the years has struggled to be profitable and viable, and the existing conditions are not exactly clear, which makes it very difficult to plan for the future or even function currently. Ephraim believes, and he'll talk about this in a little bit here, believes that the property can be a lasting community benefit if there are clear parameters established for the MR district to allow agricultural sales, or essentially what would be a country store. Right now, he's essentially limited to functioning much like a roadside stand farm market. Yet there are certain elements of his condition, of his current variance conditions that make it unclear exactly how to plan for the future. So what is being proposed? Sorry, is someone speaking?
No, there's just some background noise.
Okay. So what would be being proposed? The idea here would be to create a conditional use that would essentially put approval in the hands of the Board of Supervisors for properties where appropriate in the MR zone. And essentially it would seek to clarify that a country store or something, a defined smaller market would be able to function and serve a residential community while limiting its size and scope to not constitute a development, to certainly not have the character of a big box store, and essentially place limitations on what is permitted, but yet allow more flexibility than there currently is. And the idea would be to have a square footage limitation to allow for an expanded array of products that could be offered, but maybe a larger percentage locally sourced than is even currently permitted, and to allow things like deli meats and things like that to be sold, and other specialty food items. We're talking about fruit, we're talking about produce, of course, and even some baked goods, locally sourced baked goods. Ephraim believes, and I agree with him, this could be, if done correctly, a good fit for the MR zone. This particular property is unique, and it has been used this way for a long time to the community's benefit. And also, it's not a bad way to maintain open space in this area and in this district, and would essentially limit development while allowing a viable use of this property. And so that's what we're here tonight to discuss, and what the letter that we submitted is requesting the board's input for how to proceed. The board is, of course, permitted to take on zoning, as you already discussed this evening, allowed to amend the ordinance and take the initiative in that. And we would encourage you to do that in this case, and we would be happy to support that effort in any way possible. Ephraim is here, of course, to answer questions about that you may have for him regarding this request and how it came about. And so with that, I'll leave it to the board to ask questions, further questions.
Okay. Ephraim, good evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So what, I heard deli meats. What I remember, if I go back to that first board meeting that I sat in on years ago as a audience member, you have some type of limitation related to items that are grown or produced on the land for a certain number of months based on a certain percentage of, I don't remember what it was,
The
but
condition is currently 50% of farm products offered for sale shall be produced by the applicants. And during non-growing seasons, applicants shall be permitted to display and sell farm products which are not produced on the property. But again, it's an unclear condition.
Right.
The idea of it is that the applicant on some property is supposed to be producing the fruit and vegetables to be sold at the facility, which is happening, but in a little, is very difficult to
sure,
to be viable, especially with use of the property as being what it is.
So what would you be looking to do besides deli meats?
You can answer that, Ephraim.
I should have made a list here. I'm just shooting off the top of my head.
I don't need to know everything, but just a better understanding.
I have a list, Ephraim, if you'd like me to read it, and then you can elaborate on it.
Okay, sure. I should have prepared one. I didn't.
But it is very, I think you're all accustomed to similar, and again, I'm using country store. It's not a defined term. It's something that I think maybe should be defined, something similar to it. Ordinances around the region have all sorts of different names for these type of market stands, roadside markets, and a variety of other terms they use. But I'm using the term country store just to invoke the idea that I think we're all familiar with, which is a store that sells locally grown produce, vegetables, an area where local farmers can take some of their excess product or some of their specialty garden products and produce to sell, where local bakers can, it's an outlet for them to have a venue to sell. There are some other items, maybe some local artisan crafts and whatnot that could be sold. And flowers is a big thing now. And a lot of these roadside markets are into flowers, which has been a big thing for Ephraim just in the last couple of years, and really it's helped us keep the thing even marginally viable over the last year. So the expansion that beyond that, there would be specialty foods, coffee, deli meats, and maybe even sandwiches that people could pick up and go. We're not talking about a large, seating area inside a sit-down restaurant or cafe. We're talking about just a place where you could pick up a sub or something like that while you're in there. Did I miss anything, Ephraim?
I think you covered a lot of it. We'd also be looking at more of a full line meat counter where we would buy in bigger chunks of meat and then slice them to order, which would be included in the deli as well.
Okay. John or Ed, any thoughts?
In the what I'm reading, it says full deli. Does that mean you're going to make sandwiches for people, make other things for people that they can eat, and then they're going to eat it there or not?
I would envision making sandwiches for takeout.
What about there? Seating, tables outside?
There would be, I would envision some outdoor seating as well, like picnic tables out on the outside grassy areas.
So it's getting to be a little outdoor restaurant.
I wouldn't say outdoor restaurant, but yeah, I mean, a picnic when the weather's nice and there's plenty of space on the property. The idea is, yeah, if there's picnic tables and some seating outside, not to discourage people to, eat something from the deli out there.
And then it also says, and sell additional items that they do not grow on the property. Additional items, does that mean a pitchfork or a scythe or a hammer or a t-shirt, or what does it mean?
I would envision selling some outdoor lawn furniture, like picnic tables or seating areas, or like a outdoor chairs, that type of thing.
Well, it, it seems to me that if we amend our zoning ordinance to do this, what we're really doing is we're creating a whole other idea of the MR district. I mean, I don't think that's a bad place where you could do all that there, but what about some of the other areas in the MR district where somebody would want to do that? If we allow you to do it, then somebody else is going to want to do it someplace else.
But
It sounds,
this is sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but that's the why we would submit it as a conditional use. These are this is the type of, we understand that for a residential use, if you're going to maintain the character of a residential district and have something that's actually beneficial to residents without being an eyesore and a big hazard to the local character of the surrounding properties, that it's a conditional use. It goes before the board, and there's certain criteria that would be that would have to be met, and it would be limited in scope. So that this is not, the idea is to not open the floodgates to commercial development of any MR property, but to say, look, there are some, we're not opposed to the idea of this country store, but it has to be within these parameters. Right now, we're not really operating with any parameters, and we're not trying to open any floodgates. We're just trying to clarify what does the board find appropriate, and if that can be written into the ordinance, that would be a benefit.
I've seen these places expand. Stoffers of Kissel Hill, I've seen those places 30
right down the street from me.
Right. I've seen them 30 or 40 years ago, and I've seen them expand. And other places where it was just a little stand that kids put tomatoes and corn and everything out there, and then people put money in the bucket. And this is that's the way the Salties started out. They had a little place on 724, and then they asked that be expanded, and then they bought this property from their father, and then they made it nice and so forth. And a lot of people like it. But what are we doing when we create this this new area? What are we doing to the other MR districts? I mean, you say we can write regulations, but the way that stuff is, it's this, it's a slippery slope.
Well, I would argue that places like Stouffer's, I mean, in my area, I'm in the Lidditz area, watching that happen, even in my lifetime, not necessarily with Stouffer's, but some other local roadside stands sort of develop and blossom into full-grown commercial retail businesses, is that it wasn't addressed appropriately in the zoning wise. Either there was a favorable board who gave a bunch of variances they shouldn't have, that allowed the baby elephant into the yard that grew into something that they didn't expect, but they couldn't stop, or it was poorly drafted zoning ordinances that allowed and permitted the expansion with only a little bit of zoning relief required to make it into the behemoth that it became. Our proposal is to keep it a conditional use, to initially right off the bat draw a box around it and say, this is the scope that we're limiting this use to. It requires our approval, and it has to be the right kind of property. And that's what we're encouraging and requesting the board to undertake, is to evaluate if that's appropriate here.
Would you want us to say, well, you can sell flowers and you can sell, and then does that mean plants? Does that mean trees? Does it mean, what is, it's one thing to sell a vase full of flowers, and it's another thing to sell a 30-foot tree with a ball that weighs 500 pounds. I mean,
we would want to have that discussion. I mean, that's what in drafting the ordinance, what parameters you put on it. We're not talking about a full-blown nursery here, but yes, growing and selling flowers as part of the agricultural product of the property is definitely something that we would want to allow, but not a full-grown nursery operation selling, bulb trees and whatnot. So that would be the text. That's where we would have to get the devil's in the details. We would have to work, and we would be happy to work with the township to draft conditions and provide that framework that's clear, a lot clearer than what we're working with now at a minimum, but also giving the board the confidence that this isn't something that's going to get out of control, that this something is something that is only going to be appropriate for the MR district. So that's where the textual discussion, once we have a draft, would occur in my mind as the process proceeds, if this is something the board wants to embark on.
It seems to me when you start to deviate from selling things that you grow there, like it's 50% right now, I think, during a lot of the season, 50%. And when you start to like picnic tables, chairs, little buildings, bigger buildings, I mean, where do you stop it? I've seen these places go, Stelfers of Kissel Hill, you live next to it and you know what they do. I'm not saying that I object to them, but
they're pretty much a full-blown box store.
It's not a little farm stand anymore. You're talking about a box store. And that's in our zoning. We give it to you for this place, and then somebody else wants to do it.
I'd be in favor of a strict square footage limitation, and defining more accurately based on other zoning ordinances that have worked, that we can provide examples of, that do more accurately limit the scope of the potential development, and also more accurately define what can be sold. And Ephraim has a wish list. If he could sell everything that he thought he could would sell at that site, sure, the wish list could be long, but it will be the board's determination of what to limit if there is items that are objectionable. And that
I would hope that he would be very, very successful, and as his success grows, maybe he would want his business to grow and sell other things. And it's just the idea that how do you put a fence around this in the MR district? It's tough because as business gets better, you want to have more products to sell. And so what do we do? Stand out there and say, well, you can't sell that chair because it's too big. It seems to me it creates a problem for us to police the thing when the more we give, it just gets out of hand. I'm done talking. I've said enough.
If I may make a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Good.
I believe the path that I would take is I would send them to zoning hearing, and I would want the residents that live around them to come in, because the one thing that I took away from our prior meetings on some of the other things that we were addressing was everybody was excited about traffic. So I would want to know the impact on traffic in the area. And it's my understanding that some of the limits under the current exception that's going on are really being pushed there from what I've heard before. So I would really want the public to weigh in on this. My personal perception at this point is it doesn't fit there based on a lot of the things that John said. And that would be my position with regards to this.
Okay. Catherine, is there public comment at this moment?
Yes. Andre Walls.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to ask a question. When, when I hear Mr. Zook talk about some of the things that he wants to sell at the location and everything, a lot of them, regardless of the fact that they aren't actually made or grown on the property, a lot of them sound like the things that I expect to hear of when I hear about a country farm market, right? And I'm trying to understand the opposition when there are already food items that are sold there. And when this would clearly benefit the community. I mean, I agree with what Mr. Jacob said about hearing from the folks who live around it, because that definitely should matter. But I'm wondering what the opposition is to having a store that is successful continue to be able to be successful and sell things that would benefit the community.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that, the viability of the property and the success of the property, yeah, it is from everything I have heard and from people I have talked to about it, is a fairly popular item in the community, but it is struggling, and the alternative to keeping it essentially as a farm stand, the roadside farm stand, which is really what it's akin to now under its current restrictions, is really the death knell of the property, very likely, which means that it's likely to turn into a development. I don't say that in a threatening way, just in the dollars and cents of it. It is a difficulty. So we're not asking to turn it into a box store. We're asking for clear parameters so that so that Ephraim can keep it essentially what it is, and keep the space open, but function as with an updated ordinance.
And I would make this statement that if we were to proceed and better definition was given and some of the unclear restrictions were relieved, that obviously one of the things that I would want is that during any period of time that the store was operational under those rules, that the land could not be subdivided and developed beyond the existing footprint the way it is today.
As long as the restriction was not beyond the current use, that would be a discussion point.
That's what I'm saying. If this were to go through, one of the things that I would want to make sure would occur during the ordinance process is, you don't carve off the back 30 acres and sell it to a developer while trying to still operate a store.
Yeah.
I mean, relief is going to come with some type of guarantee that, you don't get to play both sides.
Understood. And I don't think, Ephraim, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that is going to be an issue here. There's a lot of ways we could write that into a conditional use criteria as well. We could either use impervious surface, or we could just say flat out, no subdivision while the use is in effect. That might have a sort of perverse incentive of, this is probably getting a little too far ahead.
Right.
It might have the perverse incentive of having people subdivide first before they try a use in the future. But again, that's probably too far afield here. But yeah, I don't see an issue with that unless Ephraim correct me if I'm wrong. Essentially,
No, that has not been part of the process. Actually, I can say I haven't even thought of that. Essentially, what we're looking for is relief, that we can, instead of operating in the gray zone, that we can have clear lines and therefore be able to expand, knowing that we're within the legal parameters, that we don't get a different interpretation of the restrictions that we can no longer operate. And like Seth said earlier, we come to a place where we have to consider if we can't maintain a profitable business, then we have no choice but to sell. And here again, I don't want to use that in a negative sense, but I'm just saying, can we have relief so that we can remain profitable and be an asset to the community?
Understood. Catherine, did anybody else have a comment?
I don't see any other public comment, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I mean, my position, Ephraim, is, you know, I would pursue working with the community and the township to define better what you're looking to do. I would take Ed's suggestion and get in front of zoning and talk to the public. And I'm sure, you know, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of support for something that makes sense and gives you definition, and sells things that make sense and limits things that, you know, are either an eyesore or, you know, changes the overall feel of what you are, which is a country store. And I understand why you're here. So with that said, that's my advice, is to work within the confines of Catherine to get the township manager to get in front of zoning at this point and get in front of the public.
Are you suggesting that he would refile another zoning hearing board application?
Well, how do we get in front of this and not, you know, obviously I don't want to turn this into, you know, a 1.5 year process like we've seen on other items. How do we get this to move in a way that he can get a decision quickly and understand what the public's input is?
Well, he would be, if I'm understanding you correctly, so correct me if I'm wrong, if he filed a zoning hearing board application, it would be to seek relief from something. So, or to open up one of his previous zoning hearing board applications. I think.
Yeah, I don't know that that's what he was asking.
Yeah,
No,
we really can't go back in front of the zoning hearing board. It's a variance, you know, we're stuck with a variance. The MR district has no flexibility in this way. We're dead in the water. That's why we're requesting that the board consider a zoning amendment. And really the process, correct me if I'm wrong, Pat or Catherine, but it would be, if the board gives it the green light, the idea would be that we could work with, we being me and my team here at the firm, would identify ordinance provisions in other townships that are working and functional, give feedback to Catherine, who could report to you and say, these tend to work well. They address the issues that John and Ed had brought up. And other supervisors have found that they're working in their communities for similar uses. And then we would present that to the board, and the planning commission would have their say, and they would be open for public comment. And everyone would be notified in the township that this was on the agenda. I'm not even opposed to, you know, identifying neighbors for that hearing or going above and beyond for that, but it would be all through the regular channel, and there would be plenty of opportunity for input. This is just step one, is just us requesting that you consider this.
So Seth, do I understand it that what you are proposing is you write an amendment that allows what Mr. Zook wants to do, and then you give it to us, and then we look at it and we see if it fits, and we hand it back and forth quickly, hopefully, so that we can maybe find a common agreement on this, on what should be done there.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ephraim's on board with taking the laboring oar and instructing me to do that. We've already done some work in that direction. I've looked at other ordinances. I'm familiar with other ordinances that might work with some tweaking. I mean, if Pat has a different idea and says, no, you know, the township should really be the drafter here for the first draft, that's fine too. We're open to however the township wants to proceed. But our firm request is that something, allow us to take a shot at the ordinance, but we don't want to do that if the position of the board is, yeah, this isn't going to happen. We don't want to waste an effort here. We just want we want to get an indication of whether you're willing to move forward, and if we can draft something that's that would work.
If it's dead in the water, he doesn't want to waste his client's money to put the effort into it. But if the board's willing to consider it, I agree with Mr. Hiller. It makes more sense for him, since he and Mr. Zook understand what they want to get out of the use, for them to put it together. He can then either bring it to you, or they can hash out the details, I think, with the planning commission and seek public input at all of those meetings. It certainly wouldn't be good to go back to the zoning hearing board. That's not what anybody wants. This would be similar to, but probably not as complex as, the process that we just went through with Benson. Now it's a little different because there's already an active portion of the use already on the property. So that's how I was envisioning, is that Mr. Hiller would put it together, and then, assuming the board is open to the concept, you can take a look at it. If it intrigues you, you send it to the planning commission, and you have them hash it out there. Put an ordinance amendment together that the planning commission seems to recommend. You send it to the county, you get some feedback on that, and then you decide whether or not you want to move forward. Keeping in mind, even if you enact it, it sounds like it would then go through a full conditional use hearing, where the applicant would offer up conditions, and you may impose your own conditions. And I would expect to, perhaps, Mr. Hiller, as part of the zoning amendment process, to the extent that you can, maybe you'd have some sketch plan or something, so that people would be able to see what the end product would look like.
Yeah, to the extent there was any actual footprint change, which is not the initial idea, but yes, that Pat pretty much said exactly what the idea and the request is.
Okay, well, the question asked was if the board supports this and wants them to move forward, and I guess I can answer first. I think that this is necessary. I think for sure, I definitely want to see this continue to be a viable country store on an awful lot of acreage. And I think that it needs to be clearly defined what the owners are allowed to sell, because the way that I remember it, it's a gray area.
I agree. I'd like to see it go forward. I'm concerned that it can get out of hand and go to other people. But if it's well crafted and got guardrails around it, I think it's a good idea. It's not a bad location to expand.
I sit and think about a country store that my wife and I like to go to. I think it's called September Farms. Honeybrook, exactly. And it's more of a dairy side versus a produce side, but it's a lot of cheese and stuff. But they also have some sandwiches and soups and some grab and go, I'll call it, type of meals that you can pick up over there. And to John's point, they do have a couple tables out front on the porch, but it's a very successful place that I drive out to go to. And I think that it's definitely, this could be something very beneficial, not only for the property owner, but for the community. But it's got to be defined.
Is it going to be another Shady Maple?
No. Well, I don't think that the three of us sitting here would allow that to happen.
Or a future board, for that matter. I mean, keep in mind, you're gonna have essentially two. We're gonna have to come in front of you and make the case for this this ordinance change twice. One in the actual text, and then we're gonna have to come back and prove that the use meets that criteria. So you'll have the opportunity to impose conditions essentially twice before anything is final or approved, at least in the case of this property.
Okay.
So Seth, it sounds like you would file the petition and there would be a rough draft submitted so that the board could have a better idea of what the parameters are to kick around a bit and then go from there.
Well, I did want to talk, if it is the will of the board to give this the green light, at least to get to the drafting stage, I would be interested in who actually files the petition. My understanding is that the board can take this first step when it's ready. Pat, is it your understanding that I would need to file a petition in this case, or would the board just vote to, yes, we're going to work on a draft?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to formally file a petition, Mr. Hiller, if the board's inclined to hear the matter forward. If you want to just go ahead and do so and start working on a draft, I think that's fine. I think they can consider this to be your formal request to do so.
Okay.
And we can go from
then once the draft is prepared, the board would consider it and then move it on to the planning commission for comment.
Yeah, that's the way I was envisioning it. Yes.
Okay. All right. If no other comment, I think you have your direction.
Does there need to be a vote or anything, or should we just?
I'll just say, Ed and John, are you okay with what Chris has suggested in this past?
I am.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay.
So I don't think we necessarily need a formal motion, but I think you've got the consensus of the board to move in that direction.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Last item for discussion is the Vision Partnership Grant Opportunity for Clean Energy. The township has the opportunity via the Phoenixville Area Clean Energy Alliance to participate with Charlestown, East Pikeland, Phoenixville Borough, Schuylkill Township, West Pikeland, and West Vincent Township on a multiple municipal clean energy effort to seek grant funding from Chester County for its Vision Partnership Planning Grant. The primary purpose of the grant is to implement education, ordinance text, and ideas to engage all sectors of the community in the Sierra Club's Ready in 100% program to be ready for all renewable energy by 2050. The township's proportionate share to participate is $4,286 with a projected county grant of $50,000. And I believe John Matthews of West Pikeland is here, who can further explain some details about the program.
Just one point of actually 2 points of clarification. The proportionate share could be as high as 4,700, just so the board is aware,
Okay.
which would lower the county's projected grant amount, which the group shared with me that they think might make the project more palatable to the community, to Chester County. And I can actually talk to you more about this. There may be a few members of the Phoenixville Area Clean Energy Alliance on the call listening in tonight, but certainly I could talk more about this and answer any questions that the board might have.
So what is, the goal obviously is education, ordinance text, and ideas to engage all sectors of the community. What are we envisioning is going to happen?
So this program and grant opportunity is heavily correlated to the Sierra Club's Ready for 100 initiative, which, as you described, is an effort toward being 100% renewable energy by 2050. There's a more immediate term goal of 2035 for other items, but generally speaking, 2050 is what you have in mind. The role of the county in this case would be to bring together the partner municipalities to collaborate on the initiatives, i.e. 100% renewable energy, which is also in line with objectives that the township has outlined in its comprehensive plan and the way that we're already moving with the zoning ordinance amendments, which the board's aware are being worked on, specifically related to solar energy for which we have no provisions right now. So the potential offerings of this program fill in gaps that the township doesn't currently have an initiative focused on, specifically targeted at all renewable energy. Some of the low-hanging fruit with this includes incentivizing property owners in the short term toward winterization, weatherization, allowing those property owners to also have incentives for clean energy products in their own homes. I already mentioned solar, but things like power stations in their garages if they have a like a Tesla or something similar to that. Those would all be more immediate term things that the county would help to lead the way in meeting the objectives of the Sierra Club's Ready for 100 initiative, which is a fairly extensive document outlining sort of some benchmarks for the township to make over the next few years. And there's a big education piece to this as well that the county would take the lead on.
Okay.
It's called the Energy Transition Plan. That's the key term here for the community.
Ed or John, do you have a question?
What I've seen of the Sierra Club and their comments raises the cost of heating a house, electricity, and so forth. I get these things in the mail about, do you want to have clean electric? And it costs more money. And it's, you know, I'm too old to object, but I think a lot of this stuff is just going to make it tougher in the next long period of time. This is some kind of study, and they're going to start to tell us what to do as far as this. I don't like it. I don't like the Sierra Club. That's probably like saying you don't like church, but I don't like it. That's all I have to say about it, Chris.
Okay.
So as I understand, what we're committing to is an upper limit of $4,700, right, Catherine?
That's correct.
To implement education that would address some of the issues that John is raising. Because is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, actually, if you look at the Ready for 100 plan, there's a big focus on speaking to the concern that John just raised, which is leveling the playing field for all earnings levels. I would agree that they have really latched on to the fact that it's a preconceived notion that having renewable energy means that you have to be, you know, in the upper echelon of earnings. And so this program is actually specifically targeted at providing energy audits and analysis that level the playing field, that allow for those all along the earnings spectrum to participate.
It kind of feels it's a difficult position. It feels like, you know, it's the warm fuzzy, it's the right thing to do, but you know, part of me agrees completely with John that this is
Guys, you don't have to agree with me. I mean,
no, I understand, but I'm just saying I do. I do.
But I've seen this stuff. They teach kids, they want to brainwash kids in school to think a certain way, and then we end up with problems. And I don't buy a lot of this stuff that where we can reduce costs. I mean, look at Texas, you know, wind power and solar power didn't work down there. And then because they kicked out coal and everything else. I think, you know, I don't know that it's, well, anyway. I don't
have enough information to.
I don't either.
Right. I don't have enough information to understand the entire program. That's why I was hoping that somebody was in attendance that
Anyone in attendance?
It looks like you do have a public comment.
sure.
Well, is anyone in attendance?
And yes, John Matthews is raising his hand, so I
Can we listen to him first?
Yeah,
Sure.
please.
Hello, I'm John Matthews. West Pikeland Township. How you doing?
Right. Good.
Oh, well.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm not here to sell it. I'm just here to answer questions, basically. West Pikeland Township joined the regional plan this year. It's going on for a year, but they don't won't happen at the end of the year. We started an advisory council over 2 years ago. The Environmental Advisory Council, EAC. We have 7 members. We've been doing lots of different kinds of things, stream water, and so forth. We created a subgroup to work with Ready for 100 renewable energy transition. And so part of the EAC works on this, as with the other things. And in doing that, we attended weekly meetings with sponsored by the Sierra Club, where they have experts come in and talk about renewable energy, electric vehicles, costs, how, what you do with your homes. And this is basically for municipalities. The money grant is for your municipality and your community to learn from what the municipality is doing. Benchmarking, energy use for buildings, so forth like that. And then West Pikeland, our group, worked towards joining the VPP grant. Well, we joined the Phoenixville Area Clean Energy Alliance, PACEA. We formed a group working with the other townships in a regional planning group. And of those townships, which include Phoenixville, Schuylkill, Charlestown, East Pikeland, and West Vincent, we worked to learn more, look at what our Westchester's doing, look at what Radnor's doing last night. And we applied for the VPP grant. Just to go on, these are things are part of what's going on with Landscapes 3. It all fits in with their WEEP program. It fits in with our regional plan, our comprehensive plan for 2020-21. And these townships have joined with the grant. I'll let you know that, then I'm done here unless you have questions. The townships have joined our West Pikeland, East Pikeland, West Vincent, and Schuylkill townships are involved in this grant now. And we have submitted it, and the townships pledged the money. And that's where we are. Now we're waiting to see if the grant is successful.
So you applied for the grant, and when you explained to the county what the grant was for, did you elaborate on, like, the word ordinance is in here, ordinance text? Did you elaborate on what type of ordinance text changes you would be looking to implement?
No, that would be up with the municipal planning part, the comprehensive plan. They are alerted to what might be needed to improve it. If you want, so that's what West Pikeland's in that phase right now. You don't need to do anything. To be honest with you, once you adopt it, you don't have to do anything. But there's not mandatory. But the reason to adopt it is to serve as a role model for the community. So that's one of the prime reasons.
I have a question for John, Mr. Chairman.
Good.
So John, when you say communities and cities commit to achieving 100% clean, renewable energy, educate me, if you would, on what your definition of clean renewable energy is. What does that look like?
All right, this is Ed, is this you speaking?
Yes.
I couldn't
Ed,
quite see. Well, I mean, it's up for the groups to figure out, but by education. But at this point, and it's basically part of the worldwide effort, a national effort, a state effort for Pennsylvania when you read it, and not for legislator, but some parts of Pennsylvania, and also part of Chester County. Clean renewable energy now refers to non-fossil fuel energy. Renewable meaning that you can obtain it without digging it up out of the ground. And clean means that it has less impact on climate change, for one, and also has less carbon emissions and health implications of burning fossil fuels.
So if I may, so what I hear you saying at this point is, and from what I'm seeing and what you've provided to us, or whoever provided it, we're looking at wind and solar. Is that correct?
There are two items, yes. Hydro.
And okay, but nuclear doesn't fit into that. Is that correct?
Well, it can. It depends on what it already fits into it. So you don't take down what's already working. So as things need to be replaced or they get outdated, that's why it's by 2035 and 2050. It's not tomorrow.
So who from our township would we need to be nominating someone to attend these education sessions, or how does that work? How's it working in the other townships that surround us at this time?
I wonder if Kathy is on the call. Do you see Kathy from West Pikeland?
Yeah.
Could you put her on the group too?
Of course.
Hi, I'm Kathy McDevitt from West Vincent Township. We adopted our 100% renewable energy resolution last February and formed a team of 2 people each from our EAC and our sustainability committee. And yeah, we've been working on this for a year. We're also part of the VPP grant and the PASEA. Yeah, one of the parts of the grant is that we're hoping to employ a consultant, an energy consultant, to help us work through a lot of this and work on our plans for the municipality first, and then also for the community. So as far as what's going to happen with the ordinances, I know you had some questions about that. That would be something we will review with this energy expert, and then make changes, hopefully to make them consistent throughout the region and consistent with the county and the other townships in the Phoenixville Regional Planning Commission. And as far as I understand that there are many concerns about working with Sierra Club due to their political activities especially the last few years. And this activity we've been doing as far as clean energy, the word Sierra Club and Ready for 100 really aren't part of our resolution now. We've used it as a model. We've taken advantage of some of the technical knowledge that's available through Ready for 100, but this is a nonpartisan activity, and we're not aligning with any political party as we move forward with this plan. We do hope to be able to make this so the return on investment is a convincing part of the plan. We understand that it has been more expensive. Sometimes it's more expensive up front, but then if you're getting your power from the sun, then it's good. You get your paybacks. So that's going to be part of what we're going to be working on, is to make this a plan that makes sense, not only because we think it's the right thing to do for the climate and to reduce pollution, but also because it makes sense financially.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'd like to hear if there's any public comment with regards to it, because I
Yeah, me as
kind of
well.
have my position on it.
Okay.
Okay. Andre Walls.
Hi, thanks again. I'm sure you guys are getting tired of hearing from me. But there's two things that I'd like to react to a little bit with this. The first is it seems like we should always take an opportunity as a township to investigate ways to bring in grants and other types of monies into the revenue fold, because that's always a smart thing to do, right? And I think it makes sense to understand a little bit further what it is that this would entail. And if we just look at the municipal township building itself, how could we improve the energy footprint of just the township building, right? It's a new building. There's lots of opportunities there. It would be smart to investigate it. But one of the things that I do want to react to, I have a particular aversion to misinformation. So when John brought up, the issues with solar and wind energy being Texas's problem, the problem there is actually not that. It's the failure to prepare by energy companies for issues, and further proof that companies, just like people and society, need rails. So I just wanted to make that point. I don't think that the Sierra Club's idea is indoctrinating children into believing in protecting the environment. That even sounds a little silly. And I would ask that when the supervisors are looking at initiatives like this, to take personal platitudes out and focus on the impact that it could have for the community, and for the environment as well. We are stewards for our environment. There's no question about it. We've all got kids. They have to live here when we die. We've got to make good decisions for them. That's all I'll say.
Catherine, any other public comment?
I do not see any other public comment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Guys, do we want to authorize the township manager to move forward with this commitment, or what is your position?
I have one other question back to, was it John? From West Pikeland, is that where he's from?
Yes.
Yeah.
If he's still there.
Yeah.
John Matthews, is it? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
How long is this
That's
commitment?
John Matthews, West Pikeland.
Yeah, how long is this commitment for? How long is the grant? So we get the grant, is it 1 year grant for 50?
Yeah, the grant was turned in basically in end of 2020. And it was rejected because there was other comprehensive plan type grants already in line in queue for the money. So, and since that time, West Pikeland joined the grant. Even though we worked on it for several months with similar results from the township. They didn't like Sierra Club, some of them, and thought it'd be more expensive and so forth. So, but then they've approved it now, and once it's passed, I can't remember how many months it is, but it's a matter of, it takes about a year when we hire the people. And then they present to the community, and there's community engagement as part of the process so that they know what's going on. But I don't actually know the actual number, so we're the last township to join in. But it's a while the professionals, then the township approves the grant, approves the what the fact finders, the implementers, the professionals have laid out as a how to go about the transition plan.
So
And
what commit, so two questions with regards to that, if you could just be brief on your answer. What type of demand is that putting on township staff to solicit any of this information that goes into this? And then when you say that the community is involved, what does that look like? Meaning we're having a meeting at the township building and the community can come in at that point if hopefully we're allowed to meet in person. So tell me a little bit about that. Demand on the township staff in any way, shape or form. And then what's the community involvement look like?
Sure, and Catherine knows this too, I think. It's you need to have one person on the staff be in the grant as being following through, a supervisor and another person from the community.
You're asking for three people. You're asking for three
Well,
people.
it's actually just two of them because a lot of times supervisor is just a name only. So most of them have two names on it, but one is a community person and a supervisor, but it ends up being somebody on the staff.
So that staff,
the commitment is the professionals are taking.
Pardon me, that staff who's a paid staff member is attending these meetings. Is that correct?
Well, it's not paid by the grant. It's paid by the township.
By taxpayer dollars, right?
That's correct.
Okay,
And
that's what I'm asking to consider.
The lead township in this grant particularly is East Vincent Township. So they are the lead, they are the sponsoring, they're the host of the grant. So they have one person on their staff designated to funnel most of the problems with the grant.
And then what's the community involvement look like? Tell me what that looks like to you.
For us, it's big because we just made a library grant, applied for it. And this type of activity is going to be funded by the library through this grant to educate the population about climate change.
How does that education take place? Is it a meeting and everybody comes in and there's a slideshow, or how does that take place?
They'll be up to the communities, but if you don't have community engagement, then nothing will happen. So the community engagement probably be a Zoom meetings now, and we're going to have speakers. But the grant will outline more of that, how to go about what one person in the grant is going to be a community organizer to. I want to be more of a, this is a plan so far, but that's could change. But someone who can educate the communities and bring together the discussions. Because there's going to be discussions, there's going to be pros and cons, and there's going to be compromise. And each township makes the way they want it to go. They're not one solution for everybody. It's township driven, but working together, you share the cost. Again, Kathy might have some good input on this too.
Yeah, I don't think you addressed my one question was, we put in, let's just say it's $4,700, which is supposed to be our upper limit. How long does this process take? What do you guys envision this? I understand that, it was, by a certain time period, 2035 or whatever, you got certain timelines on here, but how long does this education process take? What are we getting for $4,700?
Catherine,
Yeah,
Kathy on the back one. She'd be a better person.
Thanks, John.
There's several things that we've identified as deliverables for this grant. We've all been working on energy transition plans, and we would hope that the energy consultant would help us finalize those. We've had volunteers mostly working on this to do these plans. So it'd be helpful to have a professional look at this. And then another part of the plan is you asked, what would this community engagement look like? Well, we're not really sure. We're hoping that a professional will be able to help us with the most effective way to roll this out. It's probably going to look like several different things. It's going to look like educational materials on social media. It's going to look like hopefully some in-person conversations with people. We've actually reached out in West Vincent to some of our stakeholders, including Hankin, the owners of Ludwig's Corner, and we talked to all of our supervisors. So it's going to be a combination of things, of different ways of educating people, and our EAC and sustainability committees are also on board to help with this education part. So those are the main things we're hoping to get out of the grant. Oh, then also benchmarking too, working with what we have now to benchmark our energy use now, how much it costs, and then setting up a plan to monitor as we go forward, make some of these changes, what our return on investment has been. So the actual creating the plan, working with these consultants, we are anticipating that will last for a year, for the rest of this year. But then as far as the actual education, rolling out all these, the implementation of these plans, that's going to be, 2035, 2050. It's going to be an ongoing thing. Probably I won't be here to still be working on it. So we're going to have to, it's going to be a living plan. This energy transition plan, it's going to be a living thing. It's going to have to be updated. As some of you may mention, some of the technology isn't there yet either. Some of the things we're hoping for, like community solar, that would help, it's not available right now. So as new technology becomes available, we're also going to roll that into the plan too. So it's something that continues, it's something that lives and moves forward. But the grant part is just about a year to work with the consultant to get us rolling, to have an initial energy transition plan. Does that give you a clearer idea?
Yes, thank you.
And again, the townships that are currently involved are the ones that are in the Phoenixville Regional Planning Commission. That's how we started out with this group. And the people who are in the PSEA, the Phoenixville Area Clean Energy Alliance, not all of them, only 4 out of the 6 townships or municipalities are actually in the grant. We're also working together as a group. We hope to be able to do there's a lot of commonality in these different areas, right? So educational materials that are developed for one are going to be the same that could be used for another area. So we're going to be working together both within the grant and outside of the grant. And hopefully also, when we're also working with municipalities outside of the region through some of the things that Ready for 100 organizes. So there's a lot of information sharing, technology sharing. It's going to be, it's not just restricted to the grant.
Thank you, Kathy. Mr.
Any
Chairman,
other comment or question?
I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. So, I guess my question is, how do we want to proceed? Would we like to make a motion to authorize the township manager to execute the municipal letter of commitment to participate? Okay. There's no motion. So with that, I don't think we have any other business at the moment this evening. So I'd like to get a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Night.